Tokyo Vice, l'un des gros chocs de cette rentrée série, arrive sur Canal+ le 15 septembre. Ce soir-là, vous découvrirez le premier épisode de série réalisé par Michael Mann depuis 10 ans et le trop sous-estimé Luck, et surtout 38 ans après Miami Vice. Mais au fait, c'est quoi Tokyo Vice? Une question que nous avons posée aux réalisateurs de Hit et de Ali.
I can tell you that it's got nothing to do with Miami Vice. It's about a reporter. It's a true story about a reporter named Jake Adelstein who went to Japan in the middle 90s. And because he wanted to become a reporter on a Japanese newspaper, and he did. And wound up doing serious investigative journalism about the Yakuza and the Yakuza invading the financial, becoming Goldman Sachs with guns. And so it's his struggles to acculturate to all things Japanese and be accepted and do his work. That's what it's about.
You wish to be a crime reporter in Japan. No foreigner has worked here, ever.
I understand.
Nous sommes donc à Tokyo, au début des années 90. Tokyo et sa si rigide tradition, Tokyo et ses impitoyables yakuza, Tokyo et ses rêveurs aussi. Un Tokyo rarement vu sur un écran.
We're going to go to a deep dive into 1990s Tokyo, where the city itself is really one of the main characters, where you're going to get a real physical sense, a granular detailed sense of what it's like to be a policeman, what it's like to be a newspaper reporter, a crime reporter, what it's like to work in the miso shobai, the water trade of hostess culture, and what's it like to be, really like to be a young yakuza struggling with the moral choices you're making as opposed to just a kiss-kiss bang-bang show.
En ce sens, Tokyo Vice est assez inattendu. La série est un thriller urbain, une histoire de yakuza moderne bien sûr, mais elle va au-delà de ça, comme l'explique l'une des stars de Tokyo Vice, Ken Watanabe.
Yakuza versus cop is a really usual story and a little boring, but it's a one good point of the perspective as American young newspaper writer see the underground and then experience of some kind of a Japanese underground feelings.
Au centre de tout, il y a donc Jake Adelstein, le premier journaliste américain jamais embauché par un quotidien Tokyoite. L'histoire est vraie, Tokyo Vice est adapté des mémoires du reporter. À l'écran, il est interprété par Ansel Elgort.
At first, Jake comes to Japan. I don't think he really knows what he's doing there. But then, he realizes, he starts to read these Yakuza magazines. And he kind of becomes obsessed with the idea that, this isn't really being talked about, and there's an underworld here that hasn't been investigated. Japan is a very linear society, and they kind of tell, if you're a young newbie at a company, they tell you exactly what to do and how to do it. Now, Jake, as an American, is a little more, freedom, and hey, let me give you what my idea is here. And that attitude actually helps him be able to dig into and not take no for an answer, and kind of dig into this underworld of Japan and start investigating into the Yakuza. And him kind of always trying to defy authority is a very non-Japanese idea. So that contrast makes for, an interesting drama.
What's it like to be a Yakuza? I could write about that.
Yes, but then I'd have to kill you.
And so, allow me a compliment. What you do in the show, I didn't know you could do that. It's like, wow. I don't know if it's because of the rhythm of it, of the Michael Mann direction in the first episode. Is it? Where does that come from?
Merci beaucoup. No, Michael is very inspiring in that way. He's kind of a madman. He never stops working. He's recording everything. He's transcribing every note. He's constantly making changes. He expects a lot out of you. I always think of myself kind of as a soldier, so I'm down to go for it. We did 4 hours of Japanese every day. We did Aikido 3 hours a day, every day of the week, until I couldn't hardly walk up the stairs of the dojo at the end of like an intensive week. It was a great experience for me.
Autre élément important, l'époque. Tokyo Vice se déroule au début des années 90, période de transition de la société japonaise, une époque parfaite pour situer la série.
You know, I first brought it up to different networks. The first response, which I think is normal, is, oh, well, let's set it in the present day. It's cheaper. People relate to it. I was like, no, it has to be in the late 90s. One, you know, if the gangsters had iPhones, our character would be dead in the second episode. So we don't want that.
1990 is a big change of a society. Feeling of a people and atmosphere of a society is a big change.
I'm interested in, you know, Japan, like New York, like where I live. The New York of the late 90s and the New York of now are different planets. It was just very different, and you could be in a world within a world and that people wouldn't even know about. Jake is a character who thinks he knows more than he does and is schooled, as, you know, in a sort of iconic story of a young man growing by wiser, smarter, you know, Japanese characters. But even the smartest, most sophisticated characters like Katagiri, detective played by Ken Watanabe, even he, as the series goes on, realizes that he's been played and doesn't understand, has made mistakes, because nothing is here is what it seems. And for me, Tokyo late 90s as opposed to Tokyo now really, that would be a much richer TV show.
C'est donc une plongée dans un Tokyo jamais vu que vous propose aussi Tokyo Vice, un Tokyo on ne peut plus authentique, et ce pour une raison très simple.
We are the first American show shot entirely in Japan.
There's so much visual beauty, and we were able to shoot in places and reveal parts of Tokyo that you could never get.
What a thrill to have Michael be setting the tone visually for the series, the master of noir, the master of nighttime urban cinema, and to sort of watch him lay the template and to work with him in casting the characters to begin the show, to talk through how the world would go forward, has been fascinating.
I worked with a fantastic production designer named Jeff Mann, who's no relation. I think the sets he designed, particularly Onyx, the Onyx Hostess Club, I think is brilliant. It's some of the best production design, you know, that I've had.
カーブを描いてた床にしようかなと思ってるうちにジェフマンが川にしたらどうかっていう話が出て出来上がってったんですよね。
John Grillo lit the show for me, and then Roberto DeAngelis, the camera operator. These are people I've used for decades, and what they contribute is quite fantastic.
It's interesting how, by being in a new place, inspires you. The architecture, the colors, the shapes.
I love stories that take you into a world that otherwise you wouldn't get to see, and I think Tokyo Vice really does that.
Do you trust me?
Show the slick veneer of the 90s, and then all the deep traditional nature of Japanese culture that's just underneath the surface.
You really get to see the underbelly of the city.
It's a story about the outsider struggling to remake themselves in the vision of how they want to be.
And it's our ambition to bring the audience into a whole different world.
Tokyo Vice, c'est à partir du 15 septembre sur Canal+.